Hello everyone and welcome to a special episode of IndieCent, the America edition, because as you know, it is July 4th, America's birthday, I think. I'm not entirely sure.
America!
And now...
Damn you Yanks and your claim to independence.
I'm joined here by Elmo from our regular panel.
Well, hey.
And I have my friend Megan, who gave me that terrible shoujo anime for Heavy Storms I have yet to watch.
Damn right you do. Also, hello.
I have been busy. I have been playing... I played through all 3 Mass Effect games twice. Leave me alone. I'm gonna write a book on that, but I have to read 4 other books first before I'm ready.
He's suffered enough.
Okay, what we're doing here today is I decided our regular holiday reviews are going to be July 4th and Halloween. And I've already got the Halloween thing picked out. We're going to be looking at the Suffering games. Spoilers. But what I decided to do for these special events is instead of doing the obvious things for the holidays, like looking at, let's say Silent Hill for Halloween or Broforce, the most American game ever made for... for July, I decided to get a little weird with it. So this time we are looking at 3 very American games from an unexpected source, because you normally don't associate this company with America. We are looking at 3 games from Sierra Entertainment, one of the most important PC gaming companies that ever existed, and they're known mainly for their King's Quest series. But we will not be looking at that. We will be looking at, The Adventures of Willy Beamish, which they published with Dynamics Entertainment. Gabriel Knight's Sins of the Fathers, which they made in-house. And the last good game of one of their most popular franchises, Police Quest 3. And I say last good game because after that, Ken Williams got stupid white person... kind of stupid, and then hired the guy who did Rodney King to make the 4th game, and it was one of the worst things anyone had ever seen.
You can just say last game. You don't have to say last good game.
No, we'll get to that.
Police Quest 4 never happened.
Unfortunately, there was also more after Police Quest 4, but they were all shooting games about SWAT teams. And they were bad. And they also had Satan cults. Spoilers. But anyways, we have our normal what have you been playing segment here, and I don't have the timer with me, but I will be looking at the little clock on the bottom of my screen here, so everyone gets 7 minutes. Who wants to start us off?
I'll start first.
Okay, what have you been playing?
Well, we got a Switch not too long ago, finally. And my husband has mostly been dominating it, playing Breath of the Wild over and over and over. He's kind of a crazy Zelda fan. But very recently, I picked up a copy of The Binding of Isaac, the enhanced version they did for the Switch. And, oh god, I'm just losing myself in that. That is addictive. That should come with warnings.
It's taking all of Elmo's willpower not to chime in.
Yeah. Get out while you still can.
As my husband kept saying, why is there so much poop? And the answer is because suffering, that's why. But no, I've been enjoying that a lot. And the thing I really enjoy is the packaging. Well, 1, it comes with stickers. That's always a bonus. But 2, it comes with a booklet. An honest-to-God manual, which is more or less a replica of the manual for the first Legend of Zelda game. So,
yeah, that sounds like something that guy would do.
So yeah, I got a bit of a nostalgia kick from that. And the other thing I played recently, because this was meant to be an anniversary gift for my Gundam-loving husband, was New Gundam Breaker. The first one of those released in America for the PS4. And it is garbage. And it's a shame, because I have the first 2 for the Vita. I got them when we were on our honeymoon in Japan. And the first one in particular is great. It's great fun. Even if you can't speak a language, it's incredibly friendly to non-Japanese speakers. Even if you don't know shit about Gundam, it's fun as hell.
I would argue the problem with Gundam games is that the Japanese audience keep thinking that they want to pilot a tank. And no, I want Zone of the Enders.
No, it's not so much that. Normally they're supposed to kind of like beat-em-up games where the point is you destroy the suits, you get the parts so you can build and customize your own gun plot. The problem is this new version, first of all, let's put it in a generic Japanese high school with generic Japanese high school students. That's always fun, and long visual novel style sequences.
Oh, SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters DS kind of did that, except the translation was terrible, so characters would occasionally say things like, "Where's the beef?" or "Get her done."
Oh, Lord. But no,
it was amazing.
The real problem is the play itself. It's only set up for single player, I think like 3-on-3 matches, and it's just pure fucking chaos. How you win is not necessarily beating everybody on the screen, but completing these various little quests, like defeat such and such a suit, or so many of them, or gather so many parts, or that sort of thing. But you can't keep track of anything, and it's not helped by the fact that the text on screen is ridiculously tiny. Like, we're playing this on our big, like, 50-something inch TV, and I can barely read these things. The only good thing is I like the ability to be able to switch parts out on the fly, but the thing is you're only limited to 5. You're supposed to go to kind of like your base and deposit parts so you can gather more, but yeah, we got about 3 rounds in and it's like, nah, this isn't very good. So I ended up trading it in for Gundam Versus.
That sounds about right. The Gundam games have a really bad track record in my experience.
I don't know, I got kind of stuck on Gundam Breaker 2, but like I said, I enjoyed the original. I wish they'd port that over here, but with the Vita all but dead, no.
Yeah. It's already dead.
I know.
You still got 3 minutes if you want to use them.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Now that I'm working again, I surprisingly have a lot less time for video games.
Oh, cool. Alright, Elmo, your turn.
Wait. When you were talking about the Binding of Isaac, and you went, "Why is there so much poop?" I was like, "Oh, we're talking about Police Quest 3 already."
Heyo!
Most of the stuff I've been playing lately is either Police Quest 3 or Gabriel Knight or Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 for the next IndieCent. So I'm just gonna nerd out about a book instead. 2 of my favourite films are Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys by Shane Black. The Nice Guys they both have really great dialogue, and it's a shame that the best example of that dialogue I can think of is a really stupid line in The Nice Guys.
Fun Shane Black fact, he wanted to make Iron Man 3 and the Mandarin would have cucked Tony Stark. I'm not joking. He actually said that in an interview.
Probably he wanted
for Iron Man 3, he wanted the Mandarin to bang Pepper Potts and tape it and then send it to Tony.
Wow.
Yup.
There's a line in The Nice Guys where both of them, they're being held up by police, and it's like, "Hey, we gave you our statements. What are you still holding us here for?" The guy goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, my boss wants to speak to you. I'm just following orders." And one of them goes, "Yeah, you know who else was just following orders? Hitler."
Oh my god.
It's just, it's brilliant. But the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is actually organised in like these little chapters, and every chapter is the name of a Raymond Chandler book. And I was just thinking about him because Gabriel Knight, pretty much every form of media since the 1940s where a character is trying to solve any kind of mystery or doing anything that could be described as detective work, there's an influence that can be traced back to Raymond Chandler. There's little bits of it in like Phoenix Wright and I don't like it, but Sherlock, and definitely the Blackwell games, especially Joey, given that he's an old-timey ghost. And it's
fun Joey fact. You know Abe Goldfarb, the voice actor for Joey?
Yeah.
He once made a joke in one of the commentary tracks for the games that Joey sucked mean dick. And I like to imagine that they were still in the process of making number 4 when he said this, and then Dave Gilbert started wildly typing away at his computer like, genius! And then Joey was by.
He's a ghost. No, to be fair, I'm not... Suddenly I'm in an uncomfortable part of the internet and people are like, yeah, Elmo, ghosts can't be bi. And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant.
Why are you such a ghost bigot?
No. If there's any ghosts listening, you can love whoever you want. Just be yourself.
You know who should hear about this? The Anime News Network forums.
Oh.
Surely they'll have some insight into this.
Oh, I imagine. Great big steaming piles of insight.
I mean, sure, I use a slur, but I don't use it like a slur.
I use it ironically. What's the problem? Ugh.
Keep going.
I have another book because I need to embarrass Dark about it, but in a good way. But yeah, Raymond Chandler, he's had little impacts on things, and he's also had a huge impact on things. Like, if you liked L.A. Noire or the narration in Max Payne, to a lesser extent Alan Wake, or slightly more obscure, there was that Flash game from 10 years ago named A Case of the Crabs that was fantastic. That's all very Raymond Chandler, and I just find myself amazed because I'm reading them, and it's like, this was written 90 years ago, and the dialogue is just, it's still fine, up to date. There's a bit where he's driving some guy to the police station, and the guy is this bratty kid who he caught doing some crime, and his only line over and over throughout the story is, go fuck yourself. So he's like, I told the kid that we'd have to make a brief stop before I dropped him off at the station. He made a concise suggestion, which I let slide. And it just goes on like that, and dropped him off, warned the cops about his limited vocabulary. I'm holding another book, because I made a joke a while back when I first got a Patreon, which everyone will be pleased to know is going steady at $0. Hardcore Gaming 101 presents the Guide to Retro Indie Games, which I said is the book I would write if I ever got some money on Patreon. And I can't write it, because Dark wrote it. Well, technically Hardcore Gaming 101 wrote it, but that's the thing that I wanted to just embarrass Dark about.
I wrote a large chunk of it.
It says in the front...
outside of Kurt, who did a lot of it, I pretty much did the other big half of it.
I'm looking for Kurt. Because, yeah, I don't want to release anyone's real name. I don't want my real name going out there. I don't want people knowing what I've said on this show. But,
about the chlamydia.
Yeah. Oh, good times. We still laugh about it at family get-togethers. But yeah, just opened up the front page of this book, and it's like, oh, one person who wrote just about Super Meat Boy, and one person who wrote just about Shovel Knight, and then one person had a lot on their plate because they wrote about Volgar the Viking and Oniken. And then you've got Dark, who, frankly, you were phoning it in because you only wrote about Always Sometimes Monsters, 2064 Read Only Memories, VA11 Hall A, Pony Island, Not a Hero, Owlboy, One Finger Death Punch, Techno Babylon, Westerado, Mystic Bell, Nelly Cootalot, Shardlight, Broforce, and Lisa. So, get your game together.
I only wrote for 5 games in the newest book, the Colt NES hits.
Oh, what games?
Worm, Shatterhand, one that was based on a Tezuka manga. It was the Three-Eye Kid one. There was one based off the original Tokusatsu series that Power Rangers came from, and the last one was Dragon Fighter.
Interesting.
Shatterhand was definitely the best one because it's like prototype God Hand.
Huh.
All right, what else?
I'm done.
All right, and you were 1 minute left, so you did good.
Swish.
All right, then I'm gonna use my time fully because I have 3 games to talk about, but I'll mention Game Tycoon right now because soon, eventually on my channel there will be a new Let's Play of it, and you will notice that I will have made a game that got 4 perfect 10s within the second year, and it was called Fort David Cage is a Homophobe. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
One of probably the most first world problem I've ever had is how there's an achievement on Game Dev Tycoon for getting 4 10s, and I kept not getting it because someone kept giving me an 11. And I was like, you fucking overly grateful bastards. Ruining
Oh,
my... Ugh.
There was,
Indie.
I should mention I also made a second game about how David Cage was bad that also got 410s right after that one, so that was a good run. Anyways, I've been playing 2 games mainly. One is Armed and Dangerous. I'm doing it for Hardcore Gaming 101. And for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that's everyone because it's such a generic title, it was a game made by Planet Moon Studios, a studio that spun off from Shiny Entertainment, the people who made Earthworm Jim. And most of those people were responsible for a game called MDK, which was ridiculous nonsense. It was some sort of shooter game like a guy who had a pyramid head. And then BioWare made the sequel. Okay. And, well, they basically spun off and made their own studio. They made Giant Citizen Kabuto, if you've heard of that one. And they also made Armed and Dangerous. And then they made Infected for the PSP, which was really inventive because it was a multiplayer shooter where you could actually infect other players. And then the last notable thing they ever did was Battle of the Bands on the Wii, which was like, what if Guitar Hero but lame?
Oh.
I
was about to say that PSP game sounds interesting, but good luck finding enough people who would have it to play it nowadays on the PSP.
Exactly. But anyways, Armed and Dangerous at least was a nice little swan song. It was a sort of a spiritual successor to MDK, as in that it is also a shooter that is complete fucking nonsense. It basically takes place in England in this weird time period that mixes together fantasy elements with like every enemy is an orc, real world like World War II era technology, except there are also jetpacks that have like old timey airplane things you can pop out to slow down. But your team is made up of guy with gun, robot who likes tea, angry mole man, and blind tiny seer who smells really bad and also knows the Jedi mind trick and made 2 Nazis believe they were French and then they surrendered.
Okay.
This game it's complete nonsense. It's basically these 4 people are going to go find a magical book called the Book of Rue. Spoilers, it's actually the Book of Rule. See what they did there? Because prophecies and shit. Okay. But yeah, it's basically a big, gigantic piss take against the entire fantasy genre, and it's kind of incredible as it goes on because it just keeps finding new weird shit to do I didn't even think of. Like, at one point it seems like the mole man who's, he gets insulted by a guy and he takes offense because he thought he was making a you mama joke, except that guy is actually sleeping and dating with his mom. And then his mom comes out and berates him for being mean to the man. It's what?
Okay.
It's the weirdest thing. It's oh, and there's also that one time one of the sub villains gets high, and then when he's talking to his dad, he sees his dad as a penguin, and his dad is voiced by the voice of Shere Kong from the Jungle Book. So he's talking to a penguin that sounds exactly like Shere Kong talking about ascension to the throne, and it's kind of incredible. It is. Some jokes have aged really bad, but it's like, it's worth a look. It's on GOG, it's dirt cheap, you'll have fun with it. My only complaint is the game has basically a third-person shooter. There's definitely some fun to be had, but mostly all you have to do to get through it is just use a machine gun, because that kills things efficiently, but you also get wacky weapons like a gun that shoots land sharks. As in sharks that dig through the land and then pop up and eat enemies. You also get this thing called a topsy-turvy bomb, which is a drill you stick in the ground, hold on to, and then gravity reverses and everyone falls off the planet but you.
Those are just regular things that we have in Britain. So.
It's filled with just shit like that, but you barely get any of it, so you barely get to use it. But it's still really fun. There's some cool siege segments where you have to fight off an entire army with like a single turret and cannon. And there's some cool stuff in it. I'm glad they got this made, and Like, the gameplay is not very memorable, but the cutscenes are genuinely hilarious. It's like if you mix together Monty Python and every nerdy fantasy epic you can think of. And it's just complete fucking nonsense. And the last game I've been playing is Deus Ex Human Revolution. And I gotta say, I was not expecting it to be this racist.
Now, which number is that in the series?
The Deus Ex series goes Deus Ex, the first one, and then it goes Invisible War, which nobody liked and everyone just ignores it ever existed. And then you get to Human Revolution, which is a prequel, but it's technically a reboot at this point because they did not give a shit about doing anything at all familiar from the first game other than Bob, one of the villains there, the Bob Hope guy, I think, is hanging around. And they like reference Area 51 and stuff, but it's mainly just its own anime bullshit thing. And the entire point of the game is about transhumanism, but it's made by people who have never met a disabled person before, so of course, like all cyberpunk about transhumanism, it's kind of stupid when it actually focuses on the transhumanism. But I don't mind because the design is really good. There are so many ways you can do things, like there's a bomb you have to disarm on the first stage in order to save hostages, and normally what you have to do is hack it, but you can also just shoot the two chemical containers connected to it, which also disarms it because it needs the chemicals to go off, which is amazing. I didn't even realize the first time I tried the stage 1 that you can just not agree to let the main bad guy go when he has a hostage, and then you just shoot him in the arm fast enough with a tranquilizer dart, and then use a takedown to take him down and save the hostage. I can't imagine the only other time I've had experience like that where you can actually just kind of break the game, even though it's designed that way in this case, was Mass Effect 2, where I was a Vanguard, so I had that ridiculous charge move that let me move halfway across the entire map in one move, and I used it to go punch a gigantic robot to death before it could kill a guy halfway across the map, which was pretty great.
See, the way you describe it, it reminds me more of like Hitman, which would be appropriate.
Oh,
Both
yeah.
made by the same company.
Well, the thing is, this is... you've ever heard of the term 0451?
No.
It's a term, I think that originated with Deus Ex. I need to double check that. It may have been Thief, but... Oh no, it was System Shock, that's right.
Ah.
It's basically System Shock pioneered this concept called the immersive sim, where gameplay could be immersive, so to say, because you had so many options as a player. You could play however you like. And so a bunch of games that are out nowadays have talent from these teams, or directly bringing back the style of gameplay or these series, in so to say. So it's sort of like the Dope Fish reference. Oh, that old that old thing from like the company that made Duke Nukem that pops up everywhere. Well, in this case, 0451 is the sequence of numbers that kind of connects all these games because it's always referenced in these games. The password you have to use to start the tutorial level in Human Revolution is 0451. It's not being subtle about it. So yeah, all these games are kind of connected in a way. Like, I think modern day examples would be the new Prey. That's a big one. That basically just wanted to be a Psycho Shock because of the theming of it. And then, of course, there's the Dishonored series and so forth. And Hitman is, of course, a part of that too. But yeah, this game is surprisingly racist. You can tell this was made by French white guys because they had a black character in the first stage say the word cigaweed.
Oh god.
That is up there with Life is Strange levels of cringe.
Boo.
And to be fair, they didn't get cigaweed from South Park.
Bigger boo.
But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Human Revolution's promising. I think I'll have fun with it, even though it is actually kind of dumb when you stop and think about it for 5 seconds.
Oh, so like
That's
most of
good
Square Enix's material. Even if they publish it.
Except instead of the power of friendship, now it's maybe robot limb bad? And don't even get me started on how they confused the issue in the first game by making it about class because only rich people can afford this, and then you get to the sequel where suddenly it's a race allegory and all of the augmented people are being rounded up in the camps, even though all the augmented people are supposed to originally been rich people. It's...
And they never screwed this up again.
I'm not even sure there's going to be a third Deus Ex in this reboot series after how bad Mankind Divided kind of went. Square Enix really fucked that one up too. They forced they actually basically divided it up into 2 games, one still in development, because they wanted them to put in useless microtransaction crap for a virtual reality game nobody wanted to play.
Yes.
Video games. And with that, let's get into the main discussion, starting with The Adventures of Willy Beamish.
Women be sitcom, the video game.
Women be shopping.
It's my frog, horny.
What did you call me? Oh my god. I want to say when I picked all these out, I picked them out based on reputation and my interest in them based on that reputation. So like, I've always been interested in Police Quest 3 just the Police Quest series in general, because the first 3 games are very different from the normal glorification of police violence and are like, you didn't do a check on your car? Go fuck yourself. Oh, you didn't get to the precinct on time? You get hit by a car. Oh, you didn't put out this ticket correctly? You're fired. And so on and so forth.
So realistic. You don't get to work on time, so you get hit by a car.
Just the entire concept of a police officer actually facing repercussions of their actions is an incredible fantasy I wanted to experience.
Yeah. You could only find it in fiction.
It's weird. It's really weird because that game is based off some of the stuff in those games are based off real things that happened to actual Officer Jim Walls, but we'll get there in a moment. Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Father, I wanted to do because as far as I knew, it was one of the big franchises in Sierra's library, but I discovered it was one of the last ones to my surprise. But it also meant that it would be one of the easier ones to play, because if I made you guys play the original version of Police Quest 1 or Police Quest 2, you'd go insane. Have you ever played a text-adventure game before?
Yes.
I was eaten by a grue.
And, of course, for Willy Beamish, this is an interesting one. See, unlike the other two, this isn't strictly a PC game.
True.
This was on the Sega CD at one point.
And the Amiga.
I did not know that one. Yeah, it was actually made on the consoles, and it's kind of infamous among a lot of adventure game players because it's presented as this sort of kids game, especially with the very kiddie-looking box art. But then when you actually play it, it's very much not that. This is the most 90s transgressive satire I've ever seen in all of the worst ways, mostly. I was not expecting it to be this overwhelming. I mean, the intro starts with Willy Beamish, the horrible child, putting on stupid aviator sunglasses, and then he puts on the stupid aviator sunglasses again after the school segment at the start of the game.
All he needs is a skateboard and a backwards cap, and we'll have reached peak 90s.
He did have a skateboard, didn't he?
Yeah, and a yo-yo.
Oh yeah, he did.
Oh god, that's what happened to Ness from Earthbound.
Although weirdly, for something that's so stereotypically 90s, there's also still a lot of 80s in it. Like the fact that Tiffany is like a total Valley girl. Oh my god.
Well, the original game came out in 1991, so there's still some of that around, but Married with Children was also around at this time. And if you remember Christina Applegate's character, her main traits were
Dumb.
1, hot, 2, incredibly stupid to the point that she actually runs out of space in her brain if she has too many facts in them. Which was a plot point in one episode, I must add. But yeah, it's like if you mix together The Simpsons, Married with Children, which is the far more cynical version of The Simpsons, and then, I don't know, Dennis the Menace. This is basically what you get, and it's kind of a mess.
It's also incredibly short. Like, if I had played this as a kid, I would have felt ripped off.
Well, that's because you had a walkthrough. All of these adventure games are kind of short from this era, unless you have a walkthrough, which is why they're all ridiculously difficult. It's also why all of them have traps in them where if you don't do a certain thing in the game at the right time, you're going to lose the game. Especially Police Quest 3, which, if you don't do one thing at the very beginning of the game, you die right before the end of the game.
You don't just
Which
die,
Which I actually kind of like, because the thing you have to do is such a no-brainer. I'm amazed there were people who didn't do it.
I'm frowning.
And the thing
But
is,
yeah.
I forgot about this because, well, I did technically grow up in this era of games. I didn't really play them. I was much more of a Sims, Roller Coaster Tycoon kind of kid. So I didn't have to necessarily deal with this, oh, you have to put in the password or whatever you can only get from the manual.
Oh, yeah, no, that was the thing Sierra was doing because, like, actually not just Sierra, most PC gaming companies in the 80s were doing this because of piracy issues, while other companies, like the people who released Commander Keen and such, use shareware to get people interested in their games by putting out demos and then giving them information to the full order. You can't really do that with adventure games for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. So their solution was make it as stupidly difficult as possible. If I made you play King's Quest 1, I believe it was, you would not believe the Rumpelstiltskin puzzle.
Yeah, the whole put gem in mouth stuff. Yeah, I'm familiar with that from reviews I've seen, and oh my god. That's just tear your hair out frustrating. Although I had moments of that with this game and with Gabriel Knight, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, Ken and Roberta Williams basically created the term moon logic. But you have to give Sierra props, because if it wasn't for them, I don't think the point-and-click genre would exist today. They were like trailblazers, and then they kind of fucked it up because Ken Williams got white person stupid.
Wah, wah.
I think
But
they
yeah,
just messed it up because it's like, I don't so much believe in games aging badly as much as just, if it was bad then, it was probably bad now, and if we were annoyed by it playing them now, people were probably annoyed back in the day, and then one day people just realised, hey, you know what would be cool? If this game wasn't annoying and bad.
Well, also there was that point where all computer video games were like, you know what we need? Full motion video. Everything is full motion video. Your mom is full motion video.
Don't even get me started on the first Phantasmagoria, because Sierra put a lot. Sierra actually put a lot of time and money into that. There's even a behind-the-scenes documentary explaining this really complex shooting process they did, and it's in service to making textures that look like garbage.
Whoops.
Yeah, don't rush into new technology, folks. But Willy Beamish is interesting because this wasn't made in-house with Sierra. It was made by Dynamics, which was later bought by Sierra, but published by Sierra originally. And the creator of it, Jeff Tunnell, I think he left the company during development in the game, but I think most of it was done before he left. He went on to make a different studio and made The Incredible Machine, which is one of the most popular PC programs ever made at this point. It was this cool little educational thing where you could learn about physics and stuff by building Rube Goldberg machines, and it had tons of variations. But so it's hard to imagine the man who made The Incredible Machine made this. The 90s was a very weird time, even in the early 90s. By the late 80s, things were starting to get a little transgressive. Nicktoons were on their way very slowly. There was going to see animation starting to not give a fuck anymore. Fox had premiered at this point and was just like, okay, let's just be the edgy channel. And that's how they made their start, and so on and so forth. So, like, the Adventures of Willy Beamish following in that spirit makes sense, because at the time, a lot of the stuff these things were being satire of actually needed to be taken down a peg. Because, you know, they were coming off the Reagan years when conservative values were still king, and this was the first time people were like, wait a minute, that's all horseshit.
And then there are such timely jokes like a reference to the Exxon Valdez crash, or naming one of your villains after Leona Hemsley. That dated well.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize those. I'm not as old as I thought I was. But anyways, the problem during this era was that a lot of these things would often just become the thing they parodied. Rocko's Modern Life came off fine. I was surprised. A lot of the Nicktoons have aged well, but stuff like Married with Children, I get reruns of it all the time on TBS in the morning, and I wake up freakishly early so I catch it. It is funny, but there's a lot of shit in there that makes you wonder if they forgot they were supposed to be making fun of toxic masculinity, because sometimes they'll just default to boobs. And of course, there's the whole problem with how female characters are portrayed, like Peggy Bundy being a do-nothing layabout who spends all of Val's money and eats bonbons all the time. So, like, there are problems in this era, and Willy Beamish is definitely not immune to them.
Oh, God.
The Japanese tourists.
It's basically, it tries so hard to be satire, comes back around and becomes sincere and cheesy.
I did like the ending where the dad kind of went against what's expected of him in society, of being like the breadwinner family man and doing what's right for everyone around him, which was nice, but unfortunately the rest of the family gets the short end of the stick.
We've been just talking so much about the context, like historical context of the game, that we actually haven't talked about the plot. We probably should actually explain what this game is about.
Well, you see, Willy Beamish has this frog named Horny. Yes, Willy Beamish is this kid who wants to go to the Nentari, get it? World Championships.
He's a very progressive kid. He's a kid ahead of his time. He wants to be an esports player before that was actually a thing.
Oh no. But yeah, I should mention the Sega CD version when you're practicing on his game console. That's an actual game in that version. But anyways, he wants to go, but he needs the money to do it, but now he can't because his dad's just been fired. He's now in an existential crisis when he feels like he's nothing because he can't do the one thing he's supposed to do and provide for the family, which was actually a joke I liked, but was undercut by his wife being a nagging shopping shrill, and the older daughter being Kelly Bundy. And the younger daughter, she got off better, I guess. But still that very Lisa Simpsons vibe going on. But anyways, with this, Willy's son now has to figure out how he's going to get the money to go to that championship. While that's going on, his dad becomes the pawn of that, the main villain of the I forgot her name.
Humphrey. Leona
Humphrey. That's it, yeah. He gets hired by her and is now part of a conspiracy with her and the head of the plumbers union, who are planning to screw the city out of something big in this big complicated scheme that's way over Willy's head, but he gets dragged into it anyways because of a frog jump, where his frog horny jumps faster, jumps more because there's a girl frog there, and you see the frog is named Horny. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Satire.
Well, yeah, we're starting to get into spoilers there. I'm not sure if we're going to get directly into spoilers, maybe later, but anyways, that's the basic plot. Willy wants to get money to play video games, but then other stuff happening in background, and then he has to solve it.
Some guy sat at home, like, listening to the podcast and ripping his headphones off, like, I can't believe they spoiled Willy Beamish for me.
Well, I never.
The cutting edge of technology.
Oh, when you start the game, you have multiple options with how to handle the teacher confronting you, and one of them takes you to the nurse's office. And did you guys take that option?
No, my walkthrough didn't recommend it. I've seen screen caps though.
Yep.
This game, it's fitting they named
They
the
took him
frog
to Hello
Horny,
Nurse, basically.
except even more. That was shocking. Yeah, this game is very weirdly horny. There's one puzzle you have to solve by giving a bunch of plumbers a nudie mag, for example. There's a school bully who smokes a lot, and you actually have to use that against him in one puzzle. Let's see what else. There's a lot of weird shit in this game. Oh yeah, the gang who are like the West Side Story gang,
Complete
but they're
with the
called
snaps.
but they're called the Cripes.
Yes.
But then
Amazingly,
the
that
Japanese
one
tourists-
has amazingly that joke aged well. I'm surprised by that.
But then the Japanese tourists turn out to be
Oh
ninjas,
god!
and they
Oh
help you out,
god!
and they get their R's and their L's mixed up.
Oh god,
because
we have to talk about the
ironic.
Japanese tourists.
They were doing okay with the random Japanese tourist, except for the time where they mispronounced please. But then they brought them back, and
Ninjas!
yeah, this game is always one step forward and one step back. But at least they were right about capitalism being the root of all evil.
Hey.
And of course, thanks to the Sega CD version where they added voice acting, the original version did not, you get all the lovely, awkward, ohero style Japanese accents.
There was voice acting in the GOG version because it gives you the option to play the original version or the CD version,
Right.
which also has voice acting, but I don't think it's in the same quality as the Sega CD version. And I know it's not the Sega CD version because your portable game console is a Game Boy, not a Game Gear. That's actually kind of cute. But yeah, I like this one, but I wasn't in love with it for because there are just so many problems. But then there's stuff like Willy having a nightmare about his babysitter being a vampire.
What the fuck was that?
That was awesome.
Like, that just came the fuck out of nowhere, and nobody talks about it afterwards. Nobody.
I like in that sequence. He was like, he told his little sister to hide, so he does care. Oh yeah, that reminds me. There's a trouble meter in the game, and you get sent to military school if you're too much of a jerk.
Oh yeah, there's basically a morality system.
It's just like Police Quest. I actually really like that mechanic because, it's telling you, don't be a jerk, you fucking asshole.
Which is saying something, because even in the most positive options, with the voice acting, really still comes off as a jackass.
Well, yeah, he's 7.
But everybody comes off that way. Just everybody in his family is just kind of snide to one another.
His dad is the only exception, but he's blinded by the corruption of capitalism in his lowest moment. But then he redeems himself and sounds like a proper person by going against the forces of capitalism and becoming a whistleblower. Political commentary.
Who says games aren't relevant anymore?
Do you think there are people out there who have played Willy Beamish who are now like, no politics in my games nowadays, and they're just kind of ignoring how this game directly references multiple political situations that happen?
They probably didn't get that far. They're like, fuck this, I'm gonna play Sewer Shark.
The W in SJW stands for Willy Beamish.
There were several good jokes in the game, like the correct solution for the puzzle with the gang is not to throw the wrench at them because that just hits a man's balls, which is actually kind of funny in like the most basic way. But I liked how the sugar substitute everyone's using, Toot Sweet, is made of sludge, and they actually advertise it on TV.
Get it? It's like NutraSweet.
And it's called Toot Sweet, and when you think about it, the sludge connection makes sense because toot is short for fart.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
I kind of like the little sister. As long as you're not playing like a jerk, she's perfectly fine. She's like the one character in the family who's not a kind of an awful person.
That's also because she's a preschooler. And she's a preschooler
And
voiced
she
by a
knows
grown
French.
woman who is trying to sound like a little baby. Hey, swing me higher! Swing me higher!
If you enter the help menu, she's the narration for it.
Oh, God.
The frog is named Horny. I just want to repeat that because the frog does have sex with the girl frog at the end of the game and has babies. Very quickly, I might add.
Ray?
Oh, remember that one scene where the bad guy was
yes, where like
with the
Yoma is
other-
like writing her lover, helper, the corrupt union guy. Just
like a horsey back ride, but she's spanking him at the same
Yes!
time. And I knew that was coming because I read about this joke on TV Tropes. But when I entered the kitchen, no, not the kitchen, the dining room, and then I just saw that going on in the background. I was like, wait, what? I have to admit that is a good way to get around censorship. That's so stupid. It's kind of incredible.
She was just trying to make his Willy Beamish. Oh god, I'm
oh, boo!
No.
so sorry. I'm sorry. That was...
Can we
Oh,
talk about how
God.
the animation is somehow really good for the technology they had, but also incredibly ugly and horrifying?
Yeah, you get the feeling that the original art wasn't bad, but the character designs are kind of ugly, and they downgraded it for the Sega CD.
For the CD version I played, all the designs are really ugly, period, and the animation is just really good. So it's like a the new guy's Day of the Jackass situation, except instead of 3D animation, it's 2D animation, but only comparatively compared to what they had to work with. Like, this is a pretty ambitious game for the time. I'm surprised they managed to do this much with it. I just wish the writing was less women be shopping.
Yeah, because the concept itself is not a bad one, making a point-and-click adventure specifically for kids. Like...
Oh, no, it wasn't specifically for kids. It was specifically a game for people who really liked Married with Children.
But it just kind of turned out the way it did.
It was trying to be Animaniacs and like sneak in a lot of adult stuff for kids, which is basically the big reason people remember this, but it went too far. It went way too far too many times.
And its writers were not as talented as the staff on Animaniacs.
There's good stuff in here, and I would say give it a try if you're a big adventure game nerd, but like, yeah, you just gotta be aware. It's very 90s, and not in a good way. Oh, I wrote in my notes, hooray, terrible ending for the rich people.
Hey!
Literally
That's
flushed down the
good.
drain.
Oh, and I will say there is one brilliant thing this game did that not a lot of other adventure games were doing at the time. If you press the tab button, you can cycle through all the interactable objects on the screen. There is no pixel hunting in this game.
Hooray!
Yay!
You have no idea how big a deal that is at this point in time.
Especially with Sierra.
But yeah, let's see. Is there anything else we should add about this?
I hadn't thought about it at all, but now I'm just stuck on it. Willy Beamish is like the child version of naming your character Solid Snake. You're just kind of winking at the audience like, huh? Get it?
Penis.
Gordon Beamish.
Wouldn't it be great if like somebody actually just came out and was like, hey, here's a point and click game. Main character's name is Cock. He's on a journey.
Do not joke about this. They're bringing back
Veronica Agina.
Don't joke about this. They're bringing back Leisure Suit Larry, and it looks awful. And they will actually do this. Do not give them ideas. Leisure Suit Larry, in hindsight, was not very good, except one game where women were actually allowed to show like sexual. What's the word? I'm blanking here. If I should know this. There was one game where the women... Thank you. There was exactly one game in that series where women showed sexual agency, and that was revolutionary at the time, and the rest of it is trash. Let's be real here. We don't want Leisure Suit Larry back. It was never good. It was terrible. And they just
welcome to the IndieCent audience.
And
then they made it worse.
And speaking of annoyingly horny guys, let's talk about Gabriel Knight.
Yay!
Yay!
Congo was not a very good movie. Is that relevant to the discussion? You'll find out soon. Alright, so Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Fathers was made by Jane Jensen and Bill Crow, and nobody gives a shit about Bill Crow. No one knows who that is. Fuck off, Bill Crow. I'm sorry, you're probably a cool person in real life. But Jane Jensen was it seems to kind of be a big name for, like, Sierra fans. I was surprised she wasn't on as much stuff as I remembered, but I think that's because I got her mixed up with the lady who did the Curse of the Iris game. I think that's what it was called. It was like a Fran Bow game or something like that.
Yeah. I was surprised to learn that Jane Jensen had, I guess, as much of a history as she did, because she started out with like some of the late King's Quest games, and then she wrote this, and it just blew up, and she started writing books. She did more mystery games. She writes gay romance novels, gay male romance novels.
She also wrote Police Quest 3. Well, don't worry, Elmo. We'll get to that.
But yeah, she's won like actual literary awards. She's a fairly accomplished woman.
Yeah, she does have some blind spots, as we'll get into here, because this is a mystery game about a murder voodoo cult and all, so it's kind of unavoidable. Yeah. But the idea behind Gabriel Knight is that you're the titular Gabriel Knight, who is played by Tim Curry,
and
doing a fake New Orleans accent.
Yes, I hate to say it because I love Tim Curry. He's normally a good actor, a good voice actor, but he is horribly miscast here.
Are you kidding? I loved him.
I mean, not only
is
he
he
doing
so
that
bad
that
it
weird
became
flat
amazing
thing that English actors do when they try to imitate American accents, but then he's stacking like a generic Southern accent on top of that totally doesn't fit that region, and it's just weird.
Tell me about voodoo.
What do you know about voodoo?
No!
No! Although it's hilarious at one point, he goes to this rich lady's house, and she has a butler. The butler is voiced by Tim Curry, doing his usual Tim Curry voice. So at one point, he's literally talking to himself.
I did not realize that.
What can you tell me about voodoo? No, what can you tell me about voodoo?
And it doesn't help that the voice doesn't really fit the character design. The character design kind of looks like mid-90s David Bowie.
Honestly, I had no problem with it because, I mean, he lives in New Orleans. No matter what you look like, you're going to sound ridiculous.
I quite liked the voice acting, but it started to grate on me just because there's dialogue trees kind of in this game where you can talk to people and ask them about subjects.
You should have used the walkthrough.
I did, but I also thought,
this is the era game, you fool. Doing one extra conversation could get you killed.
I don't think it gets you killed in this one. But I wanted to see all of the
It
content,
definitely
and
can in a lot of their games.
I saved a lot of the time. But yeah, that meant that the voice does start to grate on you because you can ask every single character about a subject once
like
you learn
voodoo.
about it. So yeah, you turn up at your grandma's house like, what can you tell me about snakes? And she's just like, you really just drove your motorbike to my house just to ask me what I know about snakes? And you just like fly around the world to meet this woman in Germany, and the first thing you could say to her is, what can you tell me about Nyarlands? And it's just like, why is this an option, Gabriel? Read the room.
But yes, this has a surprisingly accomplished voice cast for its era, because it's made in that very brief period in the mid-90s where computer video games were respectable enough that they could get, if not necessarily big stars, at least big character actors. So in addition to...
They got, I should mention that Gabriel Knight's secretary is played by Leah Remini, and I wanted to bring her up because she's actually an ex-Scientologist now, who protests against Scientology and actually had her own documentary series going into all the horrible things they do, and she's awesome.
Yeah, she is the
and she's
best
probably
actor
the
in this
best.
game.
Oh yeah, she has the best sense of character out of everyone, and she doesn't sound ridiculous.
She's totally sarcastic. She plays Gabriel's assistant. Dang it, what's her name? I can't remember. Grace, that's it.
Yep.
That's it. Oh, and then of course there's the sheriff, who sounds like
Officer Frick.
He has that obnoxious voice, like the one I did for the sheriff in my Puzzle Agent LP, Mr. FBI man.
And that's
like
Jim
that.
Cummings, who is in
that's
everything.
Not Jim Cummings.
Or you're thinking Mosley.
That's not... Yeah, that's Mark Hamill.
Which
Mark Hamill
blew
is
my
the
mind a
ridiculous
little when I learned that, because his accent is very well integrated. It's only if you listen closely, it's like, yeah, that is Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Mark Hamill is a genuinely impressive voice actor, and a lot of people forget that because Star Wars. Yeah, but I was surprised by that when I finished the game and looked up who was what, and it was like, Mark Hamill?
Hey kids,
I was
it's
also
Mark Hamill!
I was also surprised by Tim Curry, but less so because every time he said no in the game, I was like, oh, that sounds familiar.
See, I've watched Rocky Horror too many times to not recognize that voice.
In the background of my mind, my brain quickly went to the scene in Congo.
Well, I guess there's worse Tim Curry movies to remember him by.
But yeah, the basic premise is that Gabriel Knight is looking into a series of murders in New Orleans that might be connected to voodoo somehow.
Voodoo
and he
murders.
ends up becoming the target of a voodoo mafia who murders people with voodoo. But it turns out to be much bigger than that because it's actually connected to his family history, and then shit gets weird.
Then
really,
shit gets weird.
Really weird. And I will give the writing credit here because they really did their homework on voodoo and the history of the religion, how it ties into the whole slavery ring, and how it kind of came about from there. You can learn a lot just by talking to characters about it, which is interesting.
Yeah, there's 2 points where you talk to characters that are basically just there to info dump. One of them is the manager of a voodoo museum, voiced by Michael Dorn, aka Worf from Star Trek Next Generation. And then the other is a college professor, a white guy, who specializes in kind of the history of voodoo, particularly its African history.
Yeah, and that basically saves the game from being kind of super racist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, it is basically
yeah.
about a white guy coming in and saving everybody from all these evil black people. Oh God.
But it saves itself considering the situation around it, and like at the end of the game, Grace is actually questioning the complicated morality and all the connections of it, and it's like a genuinely introspective, interesting moment. I like that. So it avoids going in that direction, but there's still moments like when you go into police station and then you hear it, the ominous voodoo drum player. He's hanging out outside a window and you can actually look at him. He's like, he's not supposed to be there, and then that's all you do, and he's just playing in the background while the police are doing their thing, and that was the most ridiculous shit
Or
I've ever
how
seen.
about Gabriel stirring romance with Malia, the richest woman in New Orleans? Which,
Yards.
I mean, yeah, it's a biracial romance,
Voodoo.
but
No,
it just comes out
goes
the
from-
fuck of nowhere. It's just like, you're
I
awesome.
honestly thought they were going to go in a different direction in it, and she was manipulating him
Yeah.
because he's such a fucking horn dog. But no, apparently she really did fall in love with him after a day.
Yeah, it kind of comes the fuck out of nowhere, and it just keeps going, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah, this game rushes some stuff, and but I
You
think
mean
it
like
comes
the last
together in the
quarter
end.
of the game? Yeah, that kind of came the fuck out of nowhere, where you don't go back to New Orleans to the very end, because it's like, oh, you're a fucking witch hunter. You gotta go to Germany. You gotta go to Baden. You gotta fight some fucking zombies, and oh my god, I hated that part of the game so fucking much.
Oh yeah, I was so angry because I thought my PC was making the game go too fast for that section, because that happened once before. But then when I turned it down, I found out making the game slower there makes it harder.
God. Yeah, because
I had to look it up on YouTube, and I eventually figured out if you just go to all the way to the right at the end of the room, and the zombie slowly comes at you, if you leave at the right time, the zombie won't be able to catch you right away when you're turning, and it will be too far to chase you when you're going to the door.
yeah, because for the most part, unlike a lot of these point-and-click games, there isn't a lot of like puzzle solving or anything like that. A lot of it is just going around asking people questions or handing them items. Until the end,
I'm
when you have to
pretty
do that,
yeah.
where it just, as you noted, it just kind of piles it all in at the end.
Yeah, and like the very last puzzle is kind of a mess because you have to keep in mind where everyone is at the time. So yeah, if you don't use a walkthrough for that, you're going to be doing it forever.
And the best part is that every 5 seconds the narration is going, a shadow flickers in the corner of Gabriel's eye. Gabriel has the distinct
narrator-
feeling he's being watched. From off in the mound echoes a sound
You
like
mean
the
you
scuffle
didn't
of a
love the
shoe.
elderly West Indian narrator?
Can you tell they weren't used to voice acting yet?
No, not yet.
Not at all. Came
Because-
across completely natural.
I didn't mind her that much, but I could see how she could get annoying for some people real fast because she talks very
I liked her
slow.
I liked her a lot until the temple. She has sass sometimes. Like if you do a clearly stupid thing, she chews you out for it.
Yes.
That's kind of nice. I mentioned the kind of background racism going on by accident, but then there's also the sexist stuff, like, you know, the romance is, yeah. Apparently, the only witch hunters allowed have to be guys. This actually does become a big thing in the sequels, though, where like Grace's like, fuck it, I want to be a witch hunter. Let's see, Grace's role is very limited, and she becomes a damsel at the end, though she does get one cool moment after that if you do everything right, where she actually subverts that, which is neat. But yeah, there's some problems.
The very first scene of the game when Gabriel wakes up in his bookshop, then there's like 10 different actions to do, and just because I knew some of them would be conversation related, I just went through some of the actions just on Grace. And that's another thing, one of the actions is move, and I'm pretty sure you never move anything in the game. You just either pick it up.
I think they were, what was going on is they were basically just copying LucasArts Scum Engine at the time, and just made it the basic thing for all of their games, like they did with their Scum Engine. And I hate that system so much. Let me tell you, I fucking hate the Scum engine and everything it represents. I'm sorry, LucasArts fans, but LucasArts was great as a lot of things, but the Scum engine can go fuck itself. It gives you way too many options, and it slows down games dramatically. It was kind of a bullshit thing for LucasArts to do in the first place, because I remember Maniac Mansion had a timer element to it.
Yes.
Yeah, one good thing about Willy Beamish, it kept its controls very simple despite having a timer mechanic itself. So there was like no rushing things and being confused about what to do. So, Willy Beamish was a trailblazer in that respect. It simplified it. It did not give you all of the options. And none of them were useful, kind of thing.
Particularly if you say you're trying to get around zombies and you're like, click, 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 I gotta get to the boot. Fuck, I missed it!
Yeah. Well, I figured out that what you can do is put the mouse up to the top of the screen, and that will bring up that overhead menu that appears sometimes. And what that does is freezes time as long as your cursor is there. So then you can select the correct icon you want to use from there. I'm guessing you didn't know that.
No, I saw it, but also there's two different commands to talk to people, because you can talk to people and you can interrogate people,
yeah,
which is very different.
Oh, there was talking and asking questions. I remember that. I was confused at first. It was a good thing I was using a walkthrough, or I think I would have walked myself out of something important because Sierra.
Oh, totally.
The one part of the game which did bug me because it's completely it's possible to be completely unwinnable. All of these games have something that Sierra did where an event will happen and it depends on the speed of your processor and not on a timer or something. So every once in a while in Gabriel Knight, characters would be talking and then one of them would move and they would just fly across the screen at light speed.
Oh, I remember that.
It's the hot dog vendor. At one point then...
Yes!
You need to distract some cops so you can sneak into someone's office.
And they're like, ooh, beignets.
A hot dog vendor just... Vroom! And then the policeman's like, I'm going to go out and get a hot dog. Don't go anywhere. And you're supposed to sneak into someone's office. But he goes out and then comes back a second later like, okay, I'm done. But then the hot dog vendor disappears forever and that's it. Game over.
Yeah, you have to go into the DOS box itself and change the settings a little. So instead of going, I think it was cycles equal max, it has to be cycles equal a much lower number than max. I did not have this problem with Willy Beamish because the GOG release for that is configured differently, so it's pretty much running at the exact speed it's supposed to at all times, which was nice. And I figure out how to use the timer mechanic pretty quickly, so it's not a problem. Police Quest 3 has a different sort of glitch that isn't related to the speed of your processor entirely, but it does have a moment here and there with that still. But yeah, Gabriel Knight was probably the bigger offender as long as it comes to the speed of your processor, because I don't think anyone in 1993 was expecting computers to be this fast. But yeah, I want to say the sprite art for Gabriel Knight is fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially the character portraits.
Oh yeah, I was surprised by how detailed those were, especially after the Police Quest 3. Weird thing, the Police Quest 1 VGA remake actually has pretty okay portraits. It's bizarre. But yeah, Gabriel Knight has good music too, I remember. A lot of good moody stuff. I like the day, the thing that happens every time you hit a new day, and it's like painted in this cool blood font. And then it just quotes this random deep sounding quote, and then you realize it's quoting something written for the game. Which is kind of silly. Yeah, but the game has a great sense of atmosphere and mood, which is really hard to do at that time with like sprite graphics. So I'm really impressed by that. Yeah. Trying to think, what else should I mention? Because I don't want to get into spoilers with this one either, because I don't think there's any need to. You can go play it. I'd highly suggest picking it up on Steam or GOG or whatever, preferably GOG because Valve can go eat a dick.
And the nice thing is this version, the Sins of the Father version, is actually re-released by Jane Jensen's current game company, so it actually allows her to make money on it, which is more than you can say for a lot of these old Sierra programmers.
I should also mention there's actually a remade version of this that was released for I think the 20th anniversary or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm not sure it's worth getting because it doesn't have sprite art, and sprite art is better than all other art. Fight me. And I've seen some of the comic panels they use instead of sprite art. It's illustrated and it looks too real, like that scene in the temple with the gore. That's now very realistically illustrated, and I didn't need to see that. But yeah, I would say get the original version. You can get it on GOG easily. Don't bother getting it on Steam because fuck Valve. And yeah.
Don't bother with the sequels because they're FMV. Unless you're really the Gabriel 9. Even then, they're books.
I want to say... try the sequels if you can, see if you can get past the terrible presentation, because I've been told by a lot of people who play these games that the second and third game had the better stories, even if they have the more pedestrian monsters of werewolf and vampire and don't take place in New Orleans.
Try the second game, and then if you're really interested, try the third one.
I will say
it's definitely my favorite of this.
I want to say, despite that one scene in Phantasmagoria 1 that everyone loves, you know the one, they generally have pretty good acting in their FMV games, so yeah, I think I would give it a shot. Just for the third one, though, you know, it was made at a different time. Just be glad it's not the 3D King's Quest. That game was so bad, people don't even remember it. Not even fans of King's Quest remember it most of the time. But yeah, so that's Gabriel Knight, and let's get to the last one, Police Quest 3, the most American game ever made.
Because it's all about our police state. Yay!
Okay. Quest 3 is garbage, and I hate it.
I want to get into the history of Police Quest because this is one of the most interesting, subjects in gaming history I've ever seen. When Sierra was going on, they wanted to expand things beyond just stuff like King's Quest. And what ended up happening is that Ken Williams met this man named Jim Walls, former California Ranger. And he was interested in these stories he was telling about his days on the force, and he figured, what if we made a game about this? This was something no one had ever thought of before, and we haven't really seen since. Video games are usually about escapism or fantastical things that we can't really do in real life, and letting you experience, being a hero or fantasy and all that. But then Police Quest 1 came out, and it was hey, you didn't walk around your car before leaving to check that it's not everything's in order? Fuck you. Hey, you didn't sign this ticket correctly? You're fucking fired. Hey, you used a gun? No.
I really want to say one of my notes, because I wrote this down and it was just my exact thought process after I finished playing as much of Police Quest 3 as I could. I hit the game-breaking bug on day 6, and I was like, there's a focus on realism, but it doesn't really do anything with, and it kind of drops the focus on realism wherever it would be convenient.
Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna get to that in just a second, but I want to go over the history real fast. So, after Police Quest 1 came Police Quest 2, which had the main bad guy of the first game, this drug lord, escape prison, and you have to basically chase him down as a homicide detective now. And I played as much as I could because it is a text adventure game, and there is some bullshit in it.
Bullshit in a text adventure game. You're kidding me.
It's also really confusing thanks to it's expecting you to do a series of events in a certain way, but you can just do them out of order, and then that fucks with the game, and then your chief gets mad at you for going when you're not supposed to, even though he already told you to go. But basically, I like a lot of it. It's very procedural. You just go around following his trail, talk with witnesses, investigate the crime scene, gather clues, because if you don't gather clues, you can't, use it in a court of law, which is something every other police game except LA Noire would just ignore. Do you guys remember the Narc? Do you remember Narc?
No.
Do you remember that one shooter in the 1980s that was basically just you're a SWAT cop with all of the guns, and there's this weird fat guy in a trench coat who throws drugs at you, and then there's this other weird guy who also throws drugs at you, and you have to shoot everything.
Well, this sounds responsible and not insane at all.
I will admit it has the best box art I've ever seen. But basically Police Quest 2, even when your wife gets involved in the story and gets kidnapped by this guy, you still have to do everything by the book, make sure you get all your ducks in a row, and you can only really use the gun twice in the game. Once when you meet the bad guy in the park and he shoots at you, and you have to shoot back and he'll run away, and the other time is during the final meetup, and at that time you do kill him, which is interesting because in the first game, in the remake, you don't actually shoot him. Your squad does, and then you check his vitals and call an ambulance, and they find out they already did it, which is the weirdest thing for me to see in a cop game, because that means, oh my god, police officers that actually value life.
Those exist.
But in the second game, he does finally die, and that brings us to Police Quest 3. I'm just going to go ahead and give away the very obvious twist of this game. The guy's brother, it comes back. He was a war vet who, after learning that his brother died, went a little nuts and is back for revenge against you and everyone you love. And it basically starts out as Police Quest 1 did, where you're just filling in for the normal patrol, highway patrol cop, and you pull over people like speeding or going too slow or being drunk, and do all that. And then you find out your wife was attacked, and it gets personal. And I'll get more into the wife later. There's a story, but what happens from here is you have to gather evidence, figure out who did it, and hopefully catch them. Though the twist in this game is you get a partner named Morales, who is very clearly not a good cop.
She is angry as fuck.
She yells at everyone, she hates your guts, she expects you to send a pregnant woman to jail, and so on and so forth. And then then the chief of the homicide department's like, you're working with her now.
Oh, so it's basically a buddy cop story.
No.
One of them is by the books, the other is a real cop who gets results.
This game has
worships Satan.
This game has a very, very different tone from the other two. Not just because it was not a text adventure, but a full-blown graphic adventure game proper, but because there was some changes going on in Sierra at the time. Give me a second. So I mentioned that Jane Jensen wrote this somehow. I'm guessing what happens is that Jim Wells gives a few of his stories, they incorporate them in the game. I'm guessing that's what the drug addict you meet at the one of the first events of the game, where he thinks everyone's an alien and he's in his underpants running around and there's a knife in his underpants, that guy.
That's just an average weekend on what the fuck is wrong with you.
That has to be based on a true story. It's too ridiculous not to be. But like the main plot stuff, that always seems to come from Sierra. So Jane Jensen probably came up with this idea for the main story that involves the Satan drug cult.
As you do.
Or more likely, Ken Williams was up to his bullshit. Ken Williams had this weird idea that any publicity was good publicity, and he wanted to have a game series that was shocking to get a lot of eyes on it. So he decided Police Quest would be good for this because it was already exploring mature subject matter. It had already explored drug use, had you tracking down a murderer, stuff like that. There was actually a pretty big drug subplot in the first game, where you find out one of your fellow officers' daughter was on drugs and she eventually ODs in the background, which is kind of sad. Oh, and also there was a random stripper in that game because the Leisure Suit Larry guy was asked to make the game a little funnier in one scene. And it's like, okay, put in the stripper.
Oh, God. See,
but,
it had me up
on.
to they brought in the Leisure Suit Larry guy to make it funny.
It was only for the first game and only for that one scene, so don't worry. But anyways, this game, I think what happened in the background is he kind of pushed the staff to be a little more shocking with this game, because that's definitely what happened with Police Quest 4, where he actually called the police chief in charge of the entire Rodney King incident. He's like, hey, make a video game for me. And the guy didn't know what video games were. He's like, okay, come take a tour at my video game factory. And then he let him make one of the worst things in mankind's history. And yeah, I think what's going on here is Ken Williams wanted to be more shocking. He's like, okay, but Satanism, people are scared about that. Let's do something with that. And Jane Jensen's probably just reading about voodoo. Like, what? It's like, oh, and they have to trade drugs because the drug trade. It's like, what? I think what happened is the original plan was just going to have the plot with the returning brother coming for revenge. It was probably going to be more fleshed out, like he was a genuinely tragic character who cared a lot for his kind of scumbag brother. But then this game somehow just made it as simple as, if you take his case to the profiler in the station, he's like, oh, he's just a crazy psychotic. I'm like, the fuck? And then
he's a Satanist because he carves pentagrams into people, and that's about as far as that's ever explored.
Yeah, all the Satan cult stuff is weird as shit. It's clearly just there to be shocking and edgy, because the brother has nothing to do with it. Even if he did have connection with it, why would he be a part of it? He was originally just a decorated United States officer. And was it entirely to get revenge? But if that's the case, why go to the trouble of joining a Satan drug cult?
Well, maybe they wanted to include Satan so that way they'd have an excuse for the driving system. Because that was clearly designed by Satan.
That was probably it. They're like, Satan did a lot of good work on the driving system. You know what, Satan? We're going to pop you in this game. Satan's like, oh, thanks, guys.
The Police Quest 1 remake also had a driving system, but it was handled much better because you could actually see where you were on the map in the game, instead of having to look at a separate map that came with the game. That wasn't very good.
One of the most basic, terrible things about the driving system is that the first places you drive, you're driving along this top-down map, which you can only see a tiny part of, but it'll say, turn left to cut off here and go to the hospital. So you do that, or it's turn right here to go to the mall, or something. And then it gets to points in the game where it's like, go to 500 West Street Rose. and you drive up and down the street 100 times, and you never get a turn-off signal.
I finally figured out. Oh, no,
yeah, you just stop in the middle of the road, and then you just use the use icon on the keys to turn your car off, and then you just exit the car, and it's like, pow! The screen was here all along.
I actually didn't mind that too much. What I was mind was that the map was confusing because I didn't understand why the numbers were there, and you don't figure out till later that you actually do need to figure out what the numbers mean.
And yeah, the big... Oh.
Yeah, this game is so committed to realism. You have to know the crime codes.
Yeah, that was a copy protection thing. Police Quest 1 and 2 both did this. In order to book certain criminals, you have to understand what their actual crime was and input the correct code for that crime, and that would be included with the box. And that way they knew if you could do that, that meant you actually owned the game and weren't a dirty pirate that was putting them out of business.
And these are not common ones. It's not like 0187 or something like that, or 420.
It's like not in control of your faculties and stuff like that. Police Quest 1 was really bad about it. You had to put in multiple, 7 for one guy, I remember that. 7 different codes.
Wow.
But I didn't mind as much because I liked the atmosphere of the game. Do everything by the book. You are not special because you have a gun. You are a cog in the machine. Do good by the people. Respect women.
But the weird thing in this game about the whole realism and doing things by the book is it all comes down to who it turns out to be insane buddy cop Pat Morales, because over the course she turns out to be evil. But over
I was really confused by her ending dialogue because I would understand saying pig because cop, but why male pig?
Because she's evil.
Also, she's shown to be kind of sensitive about the fact that people treat lady cops like shit.
Yeah.
This is done at
the first thing you do is the first thing you do in the game is uphold a complaint against her because she says someone was shouting sexist things at her, so she shouted back, and it's like, and I know he's a criminal, but he made a complaint, and
was this game a commentary on the changing culture of police in America?
The woman is a Satan worshipping psychopath. So.
No, the game explains she's just on the payroll for the brother, I think. Yeah. If you don't do everything right and she kills you at the end.
But if you do everything right, this is the weird thing about the doing things by the book. You steal her keys from her bag when she's not looking to make a copy for yourself. You sneak into the criminal psychologist's office so that you can read her file, which basically says she's a psycho. You go through her desk. You block a toilet in the men's changing rooms to lure a janitor away so that you can sneak into the women's changing rooms and go through her locker. She turns out that she's a Satan worshipper, but if she hadn't been, you would be so fired.
Yes.
You totally broke all of the rules there.
I don't mind it as much in this game because a lot of the theme is based around Sonny Bonds, the main character, in a situation where he can't do everything by the book anymore because the rules are kind of out the window for a lot of this. So he's basically trying to be the proper cop while in a situation where it's clear that if he does that the whole way through, he's going to be kind of screwed.
But yeah, it's like, I'm going to block this toilet so I can sneak into the women's changing rooms. At the same time, if I leave the office without checking that I've got highway flares, that's an instant death game over.
Yeah, this game is a bit confused.
It does raise two pretty weird questions, the whole Pat Morales secretly being evil thing. Firstly, the fact that there's a criminal psychologist report that's like, she's fucking nuts.
See, that doesn't surprise me at all. These days she'd probably get promoted.
Yeah, but this was still like the 90s and coming from the perspective of an old cop who apparently actually did do things by the book, so... I wonder if he had any input on this, because I don't think he did.
Also, I want to know, if she was a power-hungry psychopath, what does it say about the game that she was immediately like, I'm going to become a policewoman?
Again, it makes sense to me, but that's just our broken police system.
Yeah. The one thing that was like the thought process that I just really wanted to mention, especially for you, Dark, was just that after playing it, I was like, yeah, there's a focus on realism, but they don't anything that would be taken out because it was unrealistic. They don't replace it with anything that's fun, and the stakes are, even when your wife gets involved, the stakes are so low, especially before your wife gets involved, that the game isn't particularly interesting. And the only original thing about it is that you have to go by all these rules that other point-and-click games wouldn't have. So the only novel thing about it is that it's looking at other games and being like, screw you, you're dumb. And I don't understand it. Oh god, Dark is going to love this.
I want to argue one thing. Who says video games always have to be fun?
Yeah, they always have to be entertaining or engaging in some way.
Yeah,
and
I thought it
driving
was
down a road, it was just...
Yeah, the driving was a hurdle, but after that, after I got used to the driving and figured out how the map works, I was engaged. I actually like that you have to go get 2 different permits at the end of the game to continue. I actually like that.
Would have you break into the criminal's house, but no, you have to drive to the court to get a warrant, drive back to deliver the warrant, but he doesn't.
Because
open the door,
if you
so
don't do that
warrant,
right, you
so
can't book him properly because you didn't follow the law.
I might just be associating bad things with that because on
in the first game, if you don't read someone their Miranda rights, you fuck up and lose. So I love that. I actually love that part of the game. I love that it doesn't give a shit about how the player feels all good and powerful. It's like, no, fuck you, do it right. It's like, oh, you didn't give someone their Miranda rights? You're fucking fired. Get out of my office. And what if law enforcement actually worked like that?
What a wonderful
The world
dream
would be a
that
wonderful
would be.
place.
Yeah.
This is why I like these first 3 Police Quest games, because they're basically that fantasy in a way. Although this game does kind of muddle it because Ken Williams bullshit.
Are you sure Ken Williams, his real name isn't just Walt?
No, Walt Williams would absolutely lose his shit if he ever had to play a game designed
just
like Ken Williams
if
wanted.
If he ever had to play a game.
If he ever had to play Police Quest 4, he would probably scream.
I'd watch that.
I think most people who played Police Quest 4 would probably scream unless they were incredibly white.
There's the bit on the first day. Just no, you go.
I was surprised that Police Quest 4, apparently not a lot of people picked up that it was racist, homophobic garbage for years, because the Police Quest series was a little cult at the time and there wasn't a lot of discussion yet. But nowadays, everyone's looking back and was like, oh. And now all the people who played it back in the day are like, actually, yeah, that is a good point.
It's a bit weird how in the same way that like I see like Call of Duty and Medal of Honor, and you think like, oh, if somebody stupid plays one of these games, they're going to be like, oh, this was really fun, I'm going to join the army and so I can shoot people for real. Then even though it's a much lesser version of that, there is still a bit of this as like, yeah, Police Quest 3, I'm going to become a real American hero, a policeman. And
no, the Police Quest games definitely aren't recruitment tools because for one thing, they're not fun on purpose.
Unless you really like busy work.
I think the entire thing Jim Walls wanted to do with this series before he left was just kind of give people the idea, a little bit of an idea of what it's like to be a police officer and the kind of responsibility that entails and just how serious it really is. But then Ken Williams was up to his white person bullshit. There is a little undercurrent of like sexism in all 3 games. Like that wife I mentioned, she first appears in the first game as Sonny Bonds' high school sweetheart, but she's a prostitute at this point. They still get along, and the game's actually pretty okay with it, especially in the remake, where he doesn't really have a problem with her being a prostitute. He is just worried about her because he knows how dangerous some of the circles she runs in are. And the proper solution of one of the puzzles in the game is when you two are alone in a room together on a sting operation, he has to get her a cab because or else she'll be in danger, which, kind of nice. But the fact that he basically turns a prostitute and a housewife throughout these 3 games is...
And then spends most of this game in a coma.
And then, of course, remember, click to kiss your wife.
Hey, press F to kiss your wife.
If you do not kiss your wife, she will be in a coma.
Don't forget the music box you can only pick up for 5 seconds on day 2.
There's
your
also...
wife will never wake up.
There's also another problem. Well, while I respect what Jim Walls was trying to do, it's really clear he is not very up and up on the social side of things, so he doesn't have a good understanding of why crime happens.
Oh god. Even just like pulling over people for speeding or that, and it's all stereotyped, like, hey, say, what's up with you, big? Or the guy talking about the Nubian queen, oh my god.
I'm pretty sure most of that was more of, like, Ken Williams bullshit again, but, like, in the first game, you do have similar stuff like that, except in one case is a woman who tries to hit on you to get out of a ticket, and the right course of action is to give her the ticket, and then she goes apeshit and just complains about you until she drives off, and then well, the narration's just like, wow, that was rude. People always act like this when you're just trying to uphold the speeding laws. I was like, what's going on here is that, well, Walls has a good understanding of the responsibility of being an officer, which is basically an alien concept today, but he doesn't have a good idea of how crime starts and happens, and I don't mean those goofy pullovers. I mean why drugs become a problem, while organized crime takes place, why the sex workers happen to exist. He doesn't seem to mean anything negative about any of this, but he has a very still Hollywoodish view of it. Like when you're going on the sting in the first game, there's just a bunch of drug lords hanging out and playing poker. And there's a undercurrent of the officer, this idyllic community worried about drugs coming in their community and not sure how to deal with it, stuff like that. He views the outside world as a corrupting element, and while I don't really get a hint of like hatred or racism or sexism from him or even homophobia, I do get the hint that he doesn't really understand what outside influences actually are, or why poverty would cause someone to become desperate enough to commit crime. And it is a problem throughout the first game and the third game, not the second game, because it's more focused on that one manhunt.
So you're saying he's not really a big picture guy, he's just...
Yeah, he has one perspective, and it's a respectable perspective, but yeah, and the problem is Sierra isn't interested in getting the rest of that perspective in, because Ken Williams is a fucking idiot. I will never get tired of saying that. I don't care how important his work is. His wife was way more talented. Ken Williams is just a fucking shock jock who alienated most of his team when he brought in the guy who did Rodney King in The Office without telling them, and then they all had to find out from the few people who could actually recognize him. That is an actual thing that happened.
Jesus Christ.
I really like how your critique is really intelligent and based around the themes that they explored but maybe explored incompletely, or themes that they had a chance to explore but didn't. And then there's me, and it's like, I hit the bug on day 1 where you lose. That's why I hate this game.
The timer bug.
You go out where your crazy Satan worshipping colleague has stopped a pregnant woman, and then you're supposed to drive along the freeway, and then there's like 3 random events where you have to stop cars. 4 random events where you have to stop cars, and then it's like, your wife has been stabbed. Oh no, you have to go to your wife. And I just got the your wife has been stabbed message straight away. So I went to my wife, and I didn't stop any of the cars. And if you don't stop a car on day 1, you don't end up taking the driver to court on day 4. And if you don't show up on court on day 4, then on day 6, when you need to get a warrant, then Sonny Bonds will just park outside the court and then say, "Why would I get out here? I don't need to get out here." And it's not an intentional game over, it's just a bug in the programming.
That's actually a really weird bug, because the one I'm thinking of is that the timer of the game was originally wrong when it came out, so it would display the incorrect times when stopping people in certain patterns. So if you didn't get the stereotypical Mexican guy who drives his car really slow first, then when you print out his ticket, you're going to put on the wrong time, and you can't win the case against him at the court, which means you're, which sucks.
There's multiple ways that you can lose in the game.
But it's actually possible, thanks to this glitch, to not be able to go in the courthouse, but not because. But it was supposed to be because of doing the ticketing out of order. But it sounds like you found a new bug no one knew about.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Yay!
You really could have just downloaded a save file from Sierra Help that takes place right at that point in the game.
Yeah, but there was only 7 minutes left, so I just thought I'd watch the rest of it.
Yeah, the ending was anticlimactic. I'm really annoyed because I think they wanted to do more with the brother character at one point, but then Ken Williams bullshit, yada yada.
And he's like, Satan!
Oh no, he's not even like Satan. He's just some guy. The Satan cult doesn't have anything to do...
Ken Williams was like, Satan!
Yeah, the Satan cult's weird because after the first guy who stabbed your wife dies in that car wreck, it's like, then the Satan cult doesn't matter at all. That was it.
Do you think maybe they just walked in on Ken Williams in his office and they're like, "Hey Ken, you look like you're hailing Satan here. What you doing?" And he's like,
Research.
It's for the game. I'm putting it in the game. I'm not really stabbing a dog.
Oh, fun fact, that Nubian princess guy, he was actually an employee who worked at Sierra.
I'm not shocked.
All the portraits seem to be based off real people, and I think that portrait was based off a guy who worked there.
Oh yeah, that does remind me about the portraits, because it's kind of like, it's not quite like live capture, but it's like animated portraits, and it's kind of weirdly nostalgic for me because it reminds me of Oregon Trail 2, although that was done by a completely different company.
Yeah, but it's not quite right because the animation is too fast. So it looks like they're chewing peanut butter really fast.
The one thing I did genuinely really like about Police Quest 3 is because since the idea of this podcast was, so we're going to be looking at these games that all say they all come from different places in America, and they say different things in America, and I've never even been on a plane, so I'm pretty useless here. And all I learned from Willy Beamish is that the 90s were a time, and from Gabriel Knight, I just learned that there is no correct way to pronounce New Orleans. And then Police Quest 3, first thing you do, uphold a complaint against a female officer because a criminal got really annoyed that she said mean things to him. And then you drive to the park and beat up a mentally handicapped man with a nightstick. And I was like, ooh, does this say something about America?
I'm gonna defend that scene because you don't actually beat him up, you just knock him down and then handcuff him. Which is an acceptable use of force considering that situation.
Yes.
Yeah, but...
And plus, he wasn't handicapped. He was high out of his goddamn mind.
I thought they kind of left that slightly ambiguous, because all it says is he's not in control.
Well, when you arrest him, he's charged with not in control of his faculties.
Yeah, but that could just mean he's...
If he was mentally challenged, he would probably be doing this every day if he had
Who's to say he doesn't?
And honestly, I find it really weird you went right to mentally challenged with the guy screaming about aliens in his underpants in the park.
I live in Britain. I deal with that a lot. I don't want to go into details in my job, but it's...
Elmo, I'm going to tell you something. They're high.
We all have, like, it's like with the chlamydia. We have a good laugh about it at family get-togethers.
What I learned from all these games is, one, from Willy Beamish, maybe it would have been better if Married with Children did an air. In Gabriel Knight, I learned that there is a voodoo murder cult that is also the mafia, and they will kill you or put you in as some sort of mortgage scheme. And from Police Quest 3, I learned the stuff I learned in the first 2 Police Quest games, but dumber. Oh, and they had good music. Alright, let's go ahead and wrap this up. We're all going to go around and list these games in order from our least favorite to our most favorite. Who wants to start?
Mine would probably be pretty obvious. Like, least favourite, Police Quest 3. Middling one, Willy Beamish. It was alright. I think I just kind of rushed through it. So, yeah, I didn't have much time to form an opinion. Gabriel Knight, quite good. Worth checking out. Interesting piece of gaming history. There's definitely enough charm there to counteract all of the odd stuff. And while there is a part of me that would like to go back in time and say, oh, actually, Doug, no, you can do this episode without me. Then there's also a part of me which thinks it's very thematically appropriate that we've celebrated 4th of July by having the American guy make the British guy miserable. So thumbs up.
Just like we did in WW2. What about you, Megan?
Rating-wise, I'd probably put Gabriel Knight at the top, Police Quest 3 in the middle, and Willy Beamish at the bottom. And mostly what I learned from this is that I'm really glad I kind of missed this era of point-and-click stuff and didn't really get into PC gaming until the Tycoon era.
You have to realize that at this time, if you bought one of these games, that was the only game you had for a few months. You were gonna make it last. For me, I'm gonna be the odd man out. I'm obviously gonna put Adventures of Willy Beamish at the bottom. I appreciate how ambitious it was for the time, but women be shopping, horny, the frog is named Horny, and so forth. I'm gonna put Gabriel Knight second. Just hear me. I have some problems with it, mainly, as problematic as Police Quest 3 was, I think Gabriel Knight was kind of worse at points because its flaws weren't as glaringly obvious, if that makes sense. Like, I got this skeevier feeling from a few of the scenes, like that one romance that just came out of nowhere. Or the fact that the villain is the ghost of a slave, and,
Yeah, but it's like Resident Evil 5. It only gets overtly racist, like, past the halfway point.
But yeah, but that's still minor issues. I think it's a very impressive game, and I can definitely tell there's a lot of... Blackwell got a lot of ideas from this series at some point. I'm imagining that Dave Gilbert really wants to do a crossover with it one day, but... That's just me thinking that's what he wants. Hopefully it is what he wants. So, listen, make it happen. But for me, Police Quest 3, The Kindred, I'm going to put at top. Not because it's the most fun, because this is Police Quest. You're not here for fun. If you want fun, go play Police Quest 4, where you kill a cross-dresser with a flamethrower, you piece of shit. That's how that game ends.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, fuck Police Quest 4. But Police Quest 3, despite its many problems and Kevin Williams' Satan bullshit, I just really don't want to pick on Jane Jensen because I don't think that was her idea. I don't want to believe it was her idea. I think this is a good way to end the Police Quest series. Like, it's still very much about doing the right thing, respecting what it means to be an agent of the law, to respect that's your responsibility, to treat other people properly, to respect life itself, and that is so rare. I even like there is justification for the one scene where Sonny doesn't really do that when he's finds the body of the man who stabbed his wife and put her in a coma in the car wreck. He's glad that he's dead, but I can't blame him at that point because I had the same reaction. But when he gets to his old enemy's brother, he arrests him because that's the right thing to do. I'm like, that is a nice little touch. Like any other game, like especially if it was that Rodney King motherfucker who did 4 was making this, he'd be like, just kill everyone. I'm like, no, that's not what it means to be an officer. And like, I respect that a lot. It's like, this was an interesting series for me to explore, especially this one, despite all its many problems and the guest star of Judge Judy. I think it's a really interesting gaming experience you can't get anywhere else. I think it's special in a way no other video game has ever been special. As much as I like Gabriel Knight, I can point to hundreds of other games like it. No dozens, because point and clicks aren't that popular, but I can't do that for Police Quest 3, so I think it stands out as something genuinely special, even if it's probably the least good out of the series. For the first 3 games, it's definitely better than everything after it.
What was the name of the real cop who consulted on Police Quest?
Jim Walls.
Jim Walls. I just get the feeling that Jim Walls, maybe in real life, he was working at his police station one day with his colleague, Pat Morales. And he was like, "Hey Pat, want to get a drink after work?" And she goes, "No thanks, I'm busy." He goes, "Hey, I'm working overtime this weekend. Do you want to work some overtime with me?" And she's like, "That's nice, Jim, but no thanks. I see what you're doing, and I'm not interested. I'm sorry." And he goes, "Oh okay, that's fine." And then just 3 years later, Police Quest 3, Pat Morales, the Satan worshipping sociopath who you're buddied up with, and it's your job to take her down.
I disagree, because I played Police Quest 1 and his partner in that game is a lady officer. And she's
genuinely... when they were still trying to work things out.
She was genuinely competent. You actually had to follow her lead on a case to solve it. She arrests a crook when you can't, and so forth. That game respected women.
He probably made that to try and charm her. Like, look, I've put you in this game, and you're so competent, so you know. And then the next game,
was a white
boom,
woman.
Satan. Well,
I'm glad I ruined that joke for you. So that was our little Sierra game showcase. Next year I'll probably go a different angle and get something else weird, but still very American. So we had a look at the 90s, we had a look at New Orleans, probably one of the most ignored parts of Americana, and we had a look at the police. So, that was a fun learning experience. Anything else to add?
I would play This Is the Police Quest.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
Anything else?
Can you tell me anything about voodoo?
Tell me about
The Voodoo Mafia. The Voodoo Mafia, and Sonny Bonds has to stop them.
But he just gets stuck driving around the block forever because they don't have a street to turn off into.
And there's a jive talking New Orleans woman in his ear the entire time, telling him that he's a piece of shit.
And he has a frog named Horny.
Someone call Ken Williams.
Totally tubular.
'Cause this is my United States or whatever. And this is my United States or whatever.